This is a bit of a tale of misfortune. Let me start back at the beginning though. Way back in September 2012, I was looking for something to review. I did my usual search on eBay for a 1080p action camera. I came up with this one. It was an ACT30. Looked ideal, metal body, H.264 recording, and it costs about £70 including delivery. So of course I ordered one, and it arrived, and I started off doing my usual video review with the intention of having something out around about sort of October last year. I got all the things out of the box and showed how it all fitted together, showed the controls, all that kind of stuff, but there was a problem. When I came to switching the thing on and off, basically it didn't work. It just did this sort of flashing red light, nothing would work at all. I'd have to remove the battery to power it down. Now of course, what does somebody do at this point? Well, you decide to take it apart, don't you? I thought I'll have a look inside, see if there's anything I can repair, and also, while I'm doing it, I'll be able to get a few good shots of the inside of this thing, something that people might be interested in. Every now and then when I review something, people want me to take it apart, so here's a good opportunity. So here's what the inside of this one looks like. It's got the sort of microphone at the back there, but it's also got one at the front as well. It's got the one button that controls everything, and it's got this double layer circuit board which you can take apart because it's sort of held together with a little plug and socket in the middle there, as well as a few screws I've just removed, and you can see the chipset there on the bottom. So there you go, that was the inside of the ACT30 camera. Slid it all back together, put it back so that no one would know I'd ever been in there, and then got in touch with the eBay seller to tell him it didn't work and sent it back. Eventually, after a while, they sent me another one. Guess what? That one didn't work either. That one didn't even power on at all. It looked like it had got damp inside or something. So that one went in the bin. Right, now I gave up at that point and I thought, sod it, I'm not bothering with the ACT30 anymore. But there was a problem. Every time I go on eBay and have a look for a cheap action camera, the ACT30 and the ACT35 keep popping up. I thought I'll really have to get one in again, because what if it's brilliant and I haven't done a review of it? Now this is the ACT30 and this is the ACT35. Slightly different shape, but you can tell they're pretty much the same camera. Maybe the ACT35 has fixed the faults I was having with the ACT30. So here it is. I've got one in, and let's start with this review. I suppose the headline feature of this is that it's again a 1080p action camera for about £60. The things on the side of the box here mention that it's got a built-in stabilizer, which is something that's quite interesting. You don't see that often. Of course, it's waterproof, and it will record up to 90 minutes on a battery. And also it's got two batteries with it, so that's quite nice. Now let's have a look inside the box, see exactly what you do get. Inside the manual here lists all the different things that are in here. You can see those quickly on screen now. I'll show you them in more detail in a minute. Again, looking at the specs here, notice it records in MP4 file format, and it's also got a 150-degree lens on there, according to that. So these are all the things inside the box. Let's go through these as quickly as possible. There's a carrying bag here. There's a couple of these straps which are for putting around the wrist, I think. They're Velcro straps. This is a handlebar mount with an adjustable ball joint on the top with a tripod screw on there. The bottom bit, of course, is adjustable to get around different widths of handlebars as well. There's a usual USB-A to mini B lead. There's a neck lanyard. Now this disc says "To Be Your Eyes" on it, which sounds like a cheap James Bond knockoff. These things, I'll show you what those are in a minute, but basically that's very important. This also is important. That attaches it to a helmet or something. It's a sticky back pad with a sort of raised bit on it. This is another thing that attaches to that with a tripod screw thread on, and that sort of joins to that like that. It slides on. And as you can see there, the tripod screw is there, so that's where the camera will go. This is a separate and spare back for the camera with a hole in it to let the sound through. You can choose waterproof or not. That's a USB charger. There's another battery here. There's already one inside the camera. So let's have a look at the camera itself. There you go. That's the front, obviously. Nice sort of wide lens on there by the looks of it. Just the one button on the top here with a little indicator above it. If you press it, the light goes blue, the red indicator flashes in front of it, and that's basically everything. It's flashing to let me know I need to put a card in it. It's kind of an angry flash, that. So we'll turn it off by holding down the blue button. It vibrates as well, this, which is quite good. It means you can feel that it's actually doing something rather than just having to look at it. It doesn't have a beep, it just vibrates. Unscrew the back here. Notice in the thread here, there's two rubber rings on there. That's to keep the water out, of course. Inside the back, let's have a look. We've got a top right 1080p 720p switch. Top left, you've got video or photo mode. Below that one, there's anti-shake on, and an F to the right is if you have to update the firmware. USB socket, micro SD card slot, and at the bottom, that's where the battery goes in. So let's put a micro SD card in here, up to 32 gigabytes. Always best to put a nice fast one in. I'm using a class 10 16 gig card in here, or is it 32? I can't remember now. You pull the battery out like this. It's kind of rather awkward to get it out, but you can see it slides out like that, and it sort of virtually takes up the whole length of the camera. That's quite a big battery, but that's why you get the 90 minutes battery life, and it stays locked in there like that. Now let's put the back on with the hole in it so that we've got some sort of sound being recorded by this thing. Otherwise, of course, the waterproof nature will mean that there's no sound being recorded. Hold down the button, goes blue, the camera vibrates, and it's ready to record now. So if we tap the button again, it'll start flashing that red light more slowly this time to show it's recording. And if we tap the blue button, the red light will go off, and that means it's in standby mode. Now this is the most important bit. It's actually fell apart inside the box. Those rubber bits are supposed to stick to that bit there. This goes around the camera and puts a tripod screw hole on it, because really they've kind of designed this thing a bit wrong, because there's no way to mount it to anything, because there's no way to hold it in things until you attach this to it. So by attaching this, you kind of upset the lines of the thing, but you add this tripod screw hole on the bottom. Now there's a bit of a problem with this. This metal that this thing's made out of felt very cheap. Not the camera, this bracket. And it was cheap, because just look what happens when I try and tighten it up. The screw breaks. Those screws, by the way, they're all sort of mis-threaded, and the screw threads inside the thing are all at the wrong angle, so it's just impossible to tighten it up. Luckily, of course, if you remember back to the beginning, I'd already got one of these from before, and I kept the bracket from it. Now, without that bracket, this thing would be completely useless. I say completely, you could hold it in your hand, but you couldn't mount it to anything without this bracket. It's the most important part in the box, really. But now we've got that tripod screw hole on, I'll show you how it attaches to the other things. Of course, this is a handlebar mount, rather obviously. It screws on the top of there. Now I think that makes it rather tall. I can imagine it sort of vibrating a lot if you had it that high up away from your handlebar. You can imagine on a bike. Because it's got anti-shake, so we'll see how that works out later on. Now this is the important one for me. This is how I'm going to attach it to the side of my motorcycle helmet. Tighten it up in that. This sticky back bit would stay on the helmet, and then the camera with its bracket would slide into it like that. So you can imagine it being on the side of a helmet like that. Now, in the manual, it actually suggests that that's not good enough. It says that you should screw it together with those two screws that are supplied. But of course, if you did that, that means you could never remove one thing from the other, which seems a bit daft, having a slide-on mount that you then screw it to. Now, you can have it that way around, of course, as well. I'm going to show you how it looks on my helmet. That's where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it on the side here, which actually seems to fit quite well. Because there's a bit of a space away from the helmet, it means I won't get all the helmet in shot. Let's have a look at the weight of it before we start doing anything else. 139 grams with that sort of bracket bit on there, 4.9 ounces. Right, now I mounted it to the helmet. I put it on the other side in the end. You'll notice there's a bit of duct tape on here because I noticed it was vibrating, which I thought isn't going to be a good idea. So I duct taped it to the helmet. Right, so we've got it on there now. Let's have a look at some test footage that I shot. Right, now I'm going to warn you, in a second I'm going to stop talking. Well, not a second, few seconds I'm going to stop talking, and you can listen to the sound that the camera recorded. So I'm going to give you a warning now. Make sure you've got your speakers and headphone turned down, because it's going to happen in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? So that's the sound that the camera records. Pretty bad, really. But look at the video quality. It's not good. I mean, it looks all right, actually, this. But remember, this is supposed to be 1080p video. It doesn't look anything like 1080p video. It's kind of washed out as well, and a bit wobbly and weird looking. If I take a still out of it, you'll think maybe it wasn't in 1080p mode, but it definitely was. Look at the specs here. I've got some more footage that I want to show you as well when I was walking around, and you can see what that looks like. So first off, here's me walking down Market Street in Manchester. Obviously the camera's at a bit of a weird angle, but just look at the kind of sea moss wobble. That's the thing that makes you feel like you got seasickness. Now I've got the stabilisation turned on at the moment, which is supposed to be sort of dampening down the vibrations from me walking. It's not really doing that. It's just making the whole thing look like I'm sort of filming underwater. Now I've turned it off, and It's a little bit better, but of course the shakiness is here now. So really, you're not winning whether you've got the stabilisation on or off. You've just got the same effect, but in sort of different ways. Now, going inside 1080p mode, it's rather dark, isn't it? It's not so good. It's also pretty blurry as well, but let's try it in 720p, see if that's any different. That's 720p mode, and to be honest, I can't tell any difference between those two. Now 720p is in 60 frames per second. Let's crop it down and just have a look at that in more detail. So again, 720p, look at the shop sign, say where it says Lush there. Concentrate on that and see what it looks like in 1080p now. Looks exactly the same, doesn't it? I can't see any difference anyway. It might be a tiny bit, but not really worth the difference that it should be between 1080p and 720. Now look at it with the stabilisation on and look at the difference in the angle with it switched off. You might not have noticed that, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of stills. It makes it a bit more obvious. So this is the stabilisation on. Look at the edges of the frame, and then this is off. So stabilisation on obviously takes quite a bit out of the frame. That's to adjust for the stabilisation, to sort of move the image around in the frame, but of course you lose a bit of angle. And just one final word about stabilisation. I'm walking down some steps now. Just look how it turns everything into jelly vision. Now it might be useful in some situations, perhaps stabilisation, but I think this camera has a really poor implementation of it. And I'll just round it up with a few more tests outside here in the nice bright sunlight. Now the video should be looking as good as it possibly can look, and to be honest, it doesn't look very good at all. If you imagine you got some kind of 1970s filter and applied that to the video, or you got some aged film or Polaroid or something, it looks like that. It doesn't look like 1080p video shot with an H.264 codec on a nice bright sunny day. Definitely doesn't live up to the standards that I'm expecting out of this camera. Now I'll just go indoors as well and show you a little bit of footage from that. This is to show you what low light looks like. As you can see, not particularly brilliant, a bit grainy really, although I'll let it off for this one because it's not exactly unexpected. Most cameras act a lot like this when I get them in here. The light is very dim. Now if I go outside, notice the Hard Rock Cafe signs flickering there. That's of course because of the mismatch between the frame rate of the camera and the hertz of the electricity here in the UK. But let me show you some photos that I took as well from the same spot. First off, there you go, look at that one. Now you want to talk about vignetting, look at that. That's not a special effect that I've put on the photos. That's what the camera takes when it takes a photo. It's got this ring around it. It's kind of like What the Butler Saw, or looking through a telescope or something. It's certainly not usable as a photo. They're also not usable because it's incredibly awkward to take a photo. You have to unscrew the cap, flip the switch across to photo mode, press the button to take a photo, flip the switch back to video mode, put the cap back on. Now while we're talking about that cap, let's listen to what the sound quality sounds like using the one with the hole in it. So I think you'll agree, it just wasn't worth my time. I bought one camera, it didn't work. I paid for postage back to China, got another one eventually. That one didn't work either. Waited a while, got an ACT35. In all, I've probably spent £140 making this video. Luckily, I managed to have a spare one of these, otherwise the whole thing would have been off for the second time. But if you just look at the quality of the video, and if I do a zoom in here, you'll see how soft it really is. For a 1080p camera, that's just not good enough. So I really can't recommend the ACT35 or the ACT30 at all. I think they're terrible cameras. But hopefully I've saved you some money. And that's what it's all about. So for the moment, thanks for watching.